and welcome to our December 2019 edition. Happy holidays to everyone. Greg Picaveras, glad you're with us for Sports Highlights. Our program since February of 1992. It airs on Mondays at 7 a.m., 2 p.m., and 7 p.m., and weekends at 9 a.m. on Cox Cable 47, 517, and NPSTV.com. Also archived on YouTube and Twitter. It's a pleasure to talk to our first guest today, David McCune, head athletic trainer at Christopher Newport, right down the street. Good to see you.
Yes, sir. Good to be here. Thank you.
How did you get involved in the fitness?
I transferred. I went to Furman College for 2 years and transferred to JMU. And a friend of mine told me I might like the medical field because I dealt with athletics some. So I looked into it and fell in love with it and been doing it for 33 years now.
You've had some Virginia roots in Stanton, but you've been all over the place. Talk about your timeline.
From James Madison, got my bachelor's degree there. Then went to Missouri State for grad school. Then University of Miami with the sports medicine physicians there for about 6 years. Then back to James Madison for 2 years when Lefty was their head coach of basketball. Then back to University of Miami with football for 4 years. Then our defensive coordinator took the head job at Rutgers, Greg Schiano, so I followed him to Rutgers and was there 16 years. And then started here at Christopher Newport in August of 16.
That must have been a fun time with Lefty because he had just left Maryland, came to James Madison. He brought a lot of his Maryland guys with him. His son was an assistant coach. Was he in charge of hiring you, or how did you get involved with Lefty?
Partly, but so the athletic training department was in charge of some of their hiring too, but I had to meet with him as well, get his approval, yes.
Yeah, it was always an event when he coached.
Oh, he was a piece of work.
Yeah, home or away.
He was fun to be around, yeah.
Absolutely. Of course, he coached at Newport News High School, James Madison, Maryland, and of course, Georgia State as well. When you talk about some of the places you've been to, you were at Rutgers, which is now part of the Big Ten. Primarily, it's a tri-state area school, not really known for their football. When Schiano was there, it was. How, in your opinion, looking afar, since you were there so long, a fit for the Big Ten? Obviously, you're close to Penn State.
Well, I think it by its location and geographically, it's a TV network is huge, of course, for the Big Ten. And with Maryland being included and at Penn State, the footprint's kind of course, Northeast related. But athletically, actually, Rutgers has done well in some other sports. Their soccer, field hockey, some of those sports have actually in the playoffs of the Big Ten. But I think football, whatever coach they end up hiring, maybe can make a go. It'll probably be a few years down the road, though.
Yeah, it seems like no matter what, the Olympic sports do well. But when you talk about Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State, Wisconsin, it's hard to crack those teams. Maryland's lost several games this year by multiple touchdowns, and so is Rutgers, too.
Yes.
So it's never easy.
No.
What stands out at your time at James Madison and Rutgers, both?
Well, James Madison, of course, with Coach Giselle, knowing kind of his near the end of his career, it's kind of nice to be with kind of a legend, really, to see how he operated things and how they ran. And then, of course, going to University of Miami, just Butch Davis was our head coach at the time. And I think about the years at Miami, you don't realize what it was until now they look back and like the 30 for 30, all the good athletes that came through, because you're just doing your job on a day-to-day basis. You're not really getting autographs and kind of like thinking about kind of stuff. Now that down the road, those guys are legends in a lot of the football aspect.
Right. Butch Davis was with the Browns, too, for a while.
Right. And then same with Greg, as with Schiano, we had a lot of good athletes come through there, good NFL as well. It's just you're just chopping and working on the ride, not really thinking about the other part of it, just doing your job.
Yeah, Schiano's with Ohio State, and of course Tampa Bay, as we're talking to David McCune, head athletic trainer at CNU. All right, let's talk about CNU, and you focus on football. With football is a very violent sport. The helmets now are a lot better than they used to. You see the NFL, they've geared their helmets, college as well, with some extra padding in the back. Concussions weren't as a big deal when you first started, but they are a big deal now, and also hitting below a certain area too, head-to-head contact is always
lead them with the head, yes.
Yeah. Your thoughts on the whole tackle football?
Well, I feel that I think having the young kids not do it is probably wise, because the younger the brain, the harder it is to recover from a brain injury. And of course, a lot of the research shows that if you have learning disabilities of any kind, you may be a longer recovery from a concussion as well. Plus, I think you're going to see changes where a concussion is going to be not a simple return. You may be out for months. Mm-hmm. So it's going to change the face of the game. Sometimes the brain doesn't recover like they think. I think sometimes your balance is off, and you can hide some of that sometimes.
Absolutely. Talking to Dave McCune, head athletic trainer at CNU, very involved with sports medicine too. The recovery time for football, it's a once a week sport, but like you said, if it's a concussion, you might be out for a month, 2 months, or in some cases, the entire season.
Right, and with what we do is the Riverside Sports Medicine docs or our team physicians are awesome. What it is we don't really start a return to play plan until they've been 24 hours symptom free and they pass an impact test. An impact test is still just a tool along with the other things, balance assessment, things like that. Once they're symptom free for 24 hours, then we'll start a graduated return to play program. And it has to be as short as 5 days, but it could be as long as it takes. If you have symptoms, you back up again, 24 hours, day one. So it just depends.
You have a lot more stuff at your disposal than you did when you first started, even when you were at James Madison. I mean, as far as medicine, as far as technology, as far as the computer, as far as the internet, as far as analytics and so forth. When you see all these different supplements that the regular people take that are not sports people, what extra supplements do a football player with such high energy involved in a game do they need to get through game day?
Well, the NCAA doesn't allow us to give supplements or recommend them, but I know some do work, of course. Mm-hmm. The problem with supplements, if like a GNC or something of that nature, is that since it's not regulated by the FDA, you don't know what's in it. So at a past school I was at, we had a young man get tested for a positive drug test. Come found it was a steroid that was in one of his GNC supplements that he didn't know was in there. And his mom was a nurse, so you think medically she would, but he lost a year of eligibility.
Right.
So they got to be very careful with supplements. And as I always say, take it at your own risk, right. Especially at the college level, because you're being drug tested regularly, and you lose a year of eligibility.
And do what the doctor says always, and
yeah.
The head athletic trainer. But I'm talking about especially during the hot heat of the summer, in August through pretty much through October. You need to be hydrated constantly.
Right.
Back in the day it was, oh, you're tough, you can handle it, you don't need water. Now water breaks are mandatory. You don't see people practicing with as much gear on as well, because that can be also tough as well.
I remember when I was in high school putting limes in your helmet so you wouldn't get thirsty because you wouldn't have water breaks. It's a totally different world now. What we do is we make sure that we have, of course, water, Gatorade available. And there's different types of supplements we do give regarding like electrolyte stuff, called Heat Guard, things of that nature that can supplement our guys too for the heat. Plus now with the new recommendations NSA put out with the Corey Stringer Institute is that anything, once it's above 82 degrees, you have to start doing graduated breaks as the temperature goes up with the wet bulb and the temperature and the wind speed. Of course, as it rises up through, it could be no gear at all, just a helmet only. Above 92, no activity outside. Right. And that's been nationwide. They've been following these rules.
You see a lot of, especially in football, when there's such physical contact involved, that each person on the team, there's so many players on the team, has a different health history background. Is it up to you and the head coach and the assistants to know the history? Because you saw the unfortunate thing that happened at University of Maryland where actually a kid passed away pretty much on the practice field. It happens at the NFL level too. They can be obese, they can be overweight, they might have heart conditions, and they really shouldn't be playing football. How do you know?
Well, I mean, you're really at the mercy of their health history questionnaire, because some kids do hide stuff, sure enough. And nowadays, especially with the heat stuff, that's 100% avoidable death. We have the rectal thermometer that if need be, we have the dunk pool. That stuff's 100% avoidable death-wise, as long as you enact it the correct way and procedures. But you're right. If you have a young man that doesn't tell the truth on a health history, you're at the mercy of what they're telling you. But we do have a physical exam where, hey, he has a loose shoulder, but it doesn't bother him on his visit, but it may bother him, of course, when he starts to play because it's not a good shoulder. But
talk about the dunk pool.
Well, it's just a little tub that you have water in it, and we have coolers on standby. So if we have to dunk the athlete in, they go right in it, their heads out of the water. And they used to transport by ambulance right away, but now they find if you get the temperature down before you transport them, they do fine. Mm-hmm. They do totally fine.
What do you enjoy about CNU the most? It's really grown, not just in sports, but academics, athletics, and a lot of buildings too.
Well, it's really neat to hear a lot of the people that've been there way longer than me talk about the growth of it, which has been awesome. But a good change, refreshing change for me has just been the people. They're really good people. They're great to work with. Our coaches are good people. The administration, athletic department, have nothing but good. Kyle McMullen has been awesome as our athletic director to work with and to get to know. Very supportive.
Very nice. We're talking to David McCune, final few moments, head athletic trainer at CNU. What advice would you give to any athlete or individual that wants to take on an exercise routine?
I think, well, first, make sure you're healthy to begin an exercise routine. And if you have any medical issues, make sure the doctor's aware. Plus, most schools now have athletic trainers and strength coaches that you can talk to begin, get a program for you that maybe fits your sport as well. Because not every sport has to do the same activities.
I guess communication is key too, that the player, you mentioned the health history, it's important that they do communicate that with you before the season.
Yes, of course. Of course, you know, like at Rutgers, if a guy came in with a loose shoulder, you would grade him a 1, 2, or 3. A 2, guy's got a problem, but you know you could fix it surgically, he'll be a 1. So at this level, it's a little different because they don't have the money to do things like that. Because the Big Ten, you could afford to pay for whatever you want to pay for.
Right. You've been at the Division I level and also lower levels too. Do you like this level?
I like it a lot. It's just the personality of the people is awesome. I
Right.
mean, there's good and bad for everywhere. Of course, I wish I could provide more for our kids.
Is there a certain sport you prefer more than the other?
Well, I do football in the fall and baseball in the spring, and they're both so different. I like the change of them both.
And you have to like sports first because you really could, if you wanted to, you could just work full time in sports medicine with all your experience now. You've got enough contacts.
On our bye weekend, covered Quidditch match at William & Mary. So that was something unique I'd never seen, so I went. So it's all kind of stuff you get to work and experience.
But could you, if you wanted to, in the private sector, work with all your contacts around the country, now work in a sports medicine related field?
Oh, sure, even different settings, like work in a doctor's office.
Right.
Or say, like for the FBI hires athletic trainers
Yeah.
for, rehabbing their guys. So sure, there's all kind of different settings to do this in.
Very good.
Right.
All right, David, all the best to you. Happy holidays to you and your family. Thank you for being on our December edition of Sports Highlights.
Same to you. Thank you so much.
Very good. David McCune, head athletic trainer at CNU, in charge of several different sports and doing a great job the last several years. He's also been at schools like Rutgers and also James Madison. Stay tuned. We'll be back with Rashad DeVoe, head men's lacrosse coach at Hampton University, after these messages.
The Telecommunications Center is an award-winning television production facility for high school students in the Newport News Public Schools. Students can learn studio, remote production, audio operation, editing, directing, and much more. Students can also earn college credit through dual enrollment. The center has graduates working for MTV, ESPN, CNN, Entertainment Tonight, and Tyler Perry Studios. If you want to jumpstart your career in broadcasting, contact your guidance counselor or call 591-4687.
And welcome back to our December edition of Sports Highlights. Glad you're with us. Hope you enjoyed our first guest, David McCune from CNU. Greg Piccaveras, glad you're with us. And our next guest is Mr. Rashad DeVoe. He's the head men's lacrosse coach at Hampton University. Good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me.
And of course, your program's still fairly new. You just had a coach who just stepped away that had some really good national experience. And talk about Rashad DeVoe and your timeline in lacrosse.
Yeah, it was great that I was able to step in, and Coach Carter's been great helping me while I've been at Hampton. And my timeline, I've been a few places. Started actually kind of in reverse with the Rochester Nighthawks, which is a pro team first. From there, moved down to Dallas, Texas, and started working with some high school teams. Didn't think I'd get into the college game, but was fortunate enough to go to Southwestern University, and from there up to Colby College, and Waterville, Maine, and then out to the Midwest with Beloit College. Came back to the Northeast and was at the Navy Preparatory School, and then here at Hampton.
Right, and a lot of those schools you mentioned, lacrosse is really big at Syracuse and some of those type schools, really big in the Northeast, big at the University of Maryland, but you've seen other Division I schools like Duke and North Carolina, Virginia do very well too.
Yes, the growth of the sport's been great. It actually helps with recruiting, right? I'll probably get killed for saying this, but do you want to be at Syracuse in February, or do you want to
Yeah.
be in Duke or UNC? So the South is definitely growing with that in the recruiting ranks.
Lacrosse is really a neat sport. Talk about how many people are on the field at one time, opponent and another team.
Yep, and so it is technically 10 on the field, 10 on 10, but on a half of a field playing offense is 6, defense 6, and a goalie at one end. So
Right.
it's basically a form of basketball, but 6 on 6.
Right, and it gets a lot of national TV exposure too, as we're talking to Rashad DeVoe, head men's lacrosse coach at Hampton University in his first year. And when you talk about your style as a head coach, what is your style?
My style is we let them free flow a little bit. We teach them concepts, and then we teach them how to make decisions. And so a lot of our practices are teaching them how to be good decision makers, which helps out in life.
Right, Jim Heath is with you, of course, and he brought the schedule, and we'll just highlight some of the games. You have some interesting games against Utah and VMI, both on the road.
Yes, very excited. John Bersner at VMI is a great coach and a really good friend of mine, and it's going to be a tough task going there and playing those guys. And then very excited for the first plane trip for us to be able to head out to Utah with the all-star staff that they have out there, and some really, really good players. So we're looking forward to the challenge. We want to challenge ourselves.
And you guys give new meaning to being on the road. I mean, you're really on the road a lot.
We want to play anybody, anywhere. We always joke in practice and say we'll play anybody, even in the parking lot. If you want to play us, like I said, we want to step up and take the challenge.
Talk about lacrosse when you see a team like UVA who's won national championships. How different is it, per athlete? They're still at the Division I level, where they can't be as good as them or vice versa. How do you get to that elite level? Because you have to be an elite level player individually, then collectively as a team, correct?
Yeah, very interesting. I was just looking at a video of the old Tufts coach, Mike Daly, who's now the Brown coach, and he said, when things get big, think small. So they're just won a national championship. Coach Tiffany is great, but they've had years and years and years to get to that level, and so we can't think that we're there in a year or 2 or 3 or 4. We really have to think small first, and we kind of, like you say, beat the guys on our block. Then we can start taking the step up and looking at other avenues and teams of that nature. But for our guys, we recruit athletes, recruit people who want to be at Hampton, and we use our skill set. We're very athletic, we're high energy, we get up and down, so we're not as big as everyone else, but we're going to use our skill set.
We're talking to Rashad DeVoe, head men's lacrosse coach, Hampton University. Sports highlights, December. Happy holidays, too. And you have to win practice. You got to win your home games. You got to win your away games. So really, you can't look too far down the road. It's still the cliche, one game at a time.
Yeah, it was Dom Starja, the old UVA coach.
Right, yeah.
Who used to say every game's a big game.
Right.
So you can't keep going into every, you get too hyped up and get overwhelmed. And it's, again, a cliche model, but we try and say, let's just get better every day.
Yeah.
We've changed our practices from, kind of a big mindset to old school teaching camps. And so we break up by position and we just work on getting better by skill.
You mentioned Dom, a lot of UVA alumni in the area. That was still a kind of a weird exit because the guys won championships.
Yes. But still a great coach, great mentor. He was with the PLL League, the new professional league, and did very well. He still mentors. He works with Harlem Lacrosse, which helps the inner city kids in Harlem get to play lacrosse. So he's still doing a ton of work in lacrosse.
Oh yeah, he's a great mentor. Talk about the actual lacrosse ball, because it can be, and we talked about this off the air, a lethal weapon.
Yeah, it can be. We require our guys, anything that they're doing, passing, catching, to wear a helmet. Whether it's just doing wall ball or anything. I've been at places where guys are just passing and catching right before a game and hits them in the eye and breaks an eye socket.
Oh boy.
Yeah, we've had goalies get hit in the chest and have to go to the hospital because of just make sure that there's not heart palpitations or the rhythm with the heart still the same. So it can be dangerous, and plus the physical factor. They've done a great job of eliminating hard hits and hits to the head. So lacrosse does a great job of trying to make sure that that's not an issue.
Rashad, could it technically work though with a field hockey ball, because they're not as hard obviously, but they still move just as fast?
Little different texture and consistency and how they're made. So it would be a little different. It would throw a little differently.
Right. Talking to Rashad DeVoe, head men's lacrosse coach at Hampton University. Talk about your roster. What stands out on your roster as far as what you've seen so far? I know it's not been game day.
Yeah.
But you have an eye for talent.
Yeah. We actually just did the Beautiful Mind on our board yesterday, and was just looking at all the ways we can pair people, and we're very interchangeable. We can put people in different parts and different positions on the field, and we'll look like a different offense depending on who's on the field, which is very good for us. And then looking at how young we are, we were thinking we only lose one person on the offensive end next year. So we're bringing everybody back, plus the people that we've brought in, which we had a great fall recruiting.
How do you scout your teams? Primarily, do you have the internet access where you can see the opponent's game footage or practice footage? How do you have time to, let's say, look at Jacksonville or Greensboro before you play them?
I'm a film junkie, so we get film of all the opponents, and we just cut them and break them down and see what they have and try and figure out ways against it, or what we can do against it. At this stage, though, we are really focusing on us and getting better on us. And if we're solid in our defensive concepts and solid in our offensive concepts, we feel like we'll be able to compete and do pretty well. But yeah, I'm a film junkie and love breaking down film more than watching TV.
And you can see some good lacrosse footage on YouTube as well.
Yes, that's a great way for any of the young kids out there. If you want to learn, there's some really good lacrosse games out there, and there's a guy at Lacrosse Film Room who does a real good breakdown of the good and what should be done. So that's a great job.
As far as your roster is concerned, what's a good number count as far as subs, rotation? Because people do get fatigued.
Yeah, a good roster size is about a 45-man roster size. Some teams go up to 60, 65.
Wow.
That helps with practice and to be able to get full field stuff and situational stuff and scout team stuff. Most teams play about 24 to 26 people per game. We actually, since we're a very up-tempo team, we'll play about 32 to 34.
Tell the fans, where do you play your games at physically, what field, and where do you guys practice at?
Yeah, we get a chance to practice and play at Armstrong Stadium. So it's a phenomenal facility. Great to walk in there, and with the brick, it kind of reminds us, we always joke and says it reminds us of a gladiator, and we get to be in there and play. So it's just a great facility to play at.
At Hampton University, we spotlighted their former coach, of course, but in 2016, ESPN did a Sports Center on the Road from Hampton University, put them on the national map before they barely even started a program. That definitely helped. Are you still getting positive feedback from that still today?
Yeah, we're getting great feedback from that. I think it really put a spotlight on what we can do at Hampton and how big lacrosse is. We always joke about this also. We don't think Hampton knew how big it was
Right.
until you get a game day there, and football hadn't had game day there, and so they're like, wait, this might be something big.
Not football, not basketball, but
Yeah.
lacrosse.
So
but-
we have to live up to that, though. We have to catch up to that.
But this is a way of life for you, lacrosse is. They should draw on your experience from the Northeast and some of the places you've been to, because that's a way of life up there in the Syracuse area especially, and in the Northeast and in Boston and so forth.
Yes.
Well, here it's still new, but it's with Duke, Carolina, and Virginia, it's been put on the map.
Yes, and it's growing. Those teams, like I said, are great teams, and there is a lot being close to the DMV area where they like to come down. The coaching, they're starting to come down in this area because, of course, it's warmer and it's not going to snow all their life. So better coaching is coming down here, and the kids are getting better, a lot better.
How do you recruit talent? How many players are you allowed for scholarship or partial?
Yeah, so lacrosse has 12.5 scholarships. So on average, and this is with every team included, on average, most kid gets about $10,000. So you're going to pretty much rely on, you're not going for scholarship.
Right.
You're going for education. You're going to play at a school you want to play for. And then a lot of times, most of our kids are high academic, so they're getting some good academic scholarship.
A good quality of life and a good athletic experience for sure at a very prestigious school, Hampton University. Rashad, all the best to you and the Pirates.
Thank you so much.
Very good. All right, there it is. Rashad DeVoe, head men's lacrosse coach at Hampton University. Hope you also enjoyed David McCune, head athletic trainer at CNU for our December holiday show. For our entire crew, led by Ray Price, I'm Greg Picaveras. Once again, happy holidays. For more, log on to nnpstv.com for sports highlights, and we'll talk to you soon.